when you're working with clients and you're helping them to understand their numbers or know what they have, what does that conversation lead into? In other words, how do you help them now decipher that information?
So it's very, very good point you brought in here. And sometimes it's the opposite, actually. Sometimes they think they have more money than they actually have. Just because they billing, my God, I sent $1,000 of bill this month, I'm making money. But they don't know their numbers. How much are you paying in rent? How much are you paying to your employees? What is the tax consequence of this? So they start spending sometimes more than they actually earn. So it goes both ways. Sometimes they don't have the money they're spending. Sometimes they have the money, but they're not spending because they don't know it. So it's our responsibility to really break down the numbers and say, hey, Moshe, this is what you're doing. You've generated $100,000 revenue this month. And this is just the revenue coming in. By the way, the $100,000 could just be bills going out. Did you actually collect $100,000? A lot of time, the answer to that is no, because it takes time for these small law firms to really collect on their bills. And we are part of that process when we help our clients with their billing to speed up their cash flow, because we could do the billing every 2 weeks or monthly, whatever the client prefers. But there is a study there with solo and small law firms typically don't bill on monthly basis. I think Clio had a study about that in their trend report that it takes, I don't have the exact study there, but way longer than it should take for them to bill. So that's another component of it. How fast can you bring in the money that you're generated? And once you bring in the money, what are your expenses? You have your payroll, you have your employees, payroll taxes, rent, you have marketing. How did you bring in the $100,000? When you break down those numbers and kind of in plain English, it has got to be very straightforward, because as you mentioned, not only the marketing, but I think also the accounting, you should break it down so that the fourth grader, maybe not fourth grader, but maybe an eighth grader should understand, because we got to keep in mind the lawyers are lawyers and accountants are accountants. And should break it down so they understand our numbers and bring it back again. If you can't measure it, I don't think you can change it. It's like losing weight. I usually compare this with trying to lose weight. How are you going to lose weight if you don't know what your weight is and what your goal is? I'm 200 pounds right now. I want to get down to 180. I don't even know if I'm 200 pounds. So how am I going to get down to 180? I think that's a comparison. It's very straightforward. Measure it and follow up, follow through, and just compare it to previous periods and just put small goals. I always work with my clients and just putting small mini goals. We don't want to go 5 years ahead of the game. That's not necessary. It's just like a quarter at a time. Mini goals, get to the next point, and then we'll put new goals together. I think that's the key. It's straightforward. It's nothing complicated, but you got to do it. That's the key. You got to do it.
And thus, the vicious cycle of owing taxes begins for the entrepreneur, right? If you're lucky and you lose money in the first year, then you don't get that. But then you also don't get the lesson, and therefore you'll make the mistake in year 2 or year 3. You got to have somebody like Emil in your corner, right? But more importantly, when we go back to what he was talking about, it all starts with having good practices in not just the